All right, we've done all the work to set up this model. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like and why it is so cool. So the first part is we have to get to that admin interface that I showed you briefly in the intro. So if you notice inside of our project here, if we go to our personal portfolio, urls.py, we have one path, meaning there's one acceptable URL in this whole website, and that is /admin. So if we go to our project and we do a /admin, you'll notice, well, we've got to make sure that the server's running. Let's go ahead and run the server. There we go. Now reload that page. Look at that. It shows you this login form here that says this is how you get into the admin side. And you might be thinking, well, what username and password do I put in here? We have to create that. That's our job. So the way to do this is to go back to your terminal, do a Control-C, and do a Python 3 manage.py, create super user. That is all one word, create super user, okay? So once you've done that, go ahead and hit enter, and it's gonna take you through this prompt. So it's gonna say, first, what do you want for the username? It's gonna default to whatever your username is on your computer, but you could just do like Nick, for instance. That's totally fine. Email address, you could put something in or you could leave it blank. That's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna put in a password. I'll just do something like Django1234. And it's important to note here, and you gotta retype it, that this password is pretty important. So the reason that this is so important is that your admin interface is going to be available live on your website. So anybody can go to your website /admin, and if they know your username or password or they get it, they can completely mess with anything they want in the database. They can delete things, add things. I did this with the previous class where I had used a simple password and never updated it, and people were putting in hilarious pictures. So it was actually kind of a fun thing rather than a negative, but people could have put horrendous things in there. Like, it's just completely open. So you want to make sure you have something secure. Now, if you're freaking out a little bit and you're like, oh my gosh, I just did a bad password, I got to have a better password. There's going to be lots of chances to update this. If you ever want to update a password, all you have to do is the Python 3 manage.py, and then you want to do change password, all one word, and then type the name of the user. So in my case, I just made the user Nick. So I'm going to do change password Nick. And it's going to say, hey, put in the stuff here. I don't actually want to change my password, but just wanted you to see how you could do that. Also, you can just create another super user. Like Nick could be a super user. You could also make one called admin or Joe, whatever it is that you want. But now that I have a super user, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the server again. So I'm going to do run server. Now that the server's running, I'm going to come back and type in my Nick, Django1234, hit login. And boom, look at that. We're in this cool little space, right, where we can do those things, but there's really not much going on here. You'll notice if you click on users, you can see the user that we just created. That's kind of cool, but it's like, where's the project stuff? That's the thing that we really wanted to see inside of here. So if we go back to just our /admin, you'll notice that there's nothing showing up here. But if we go back to our project, and we go inside of the portfolio app in this admin.py, basically we have to specify here what models we want to show up inside of the admin. So I'm gonna get rid of this line here. And first thing that we need to do is we need to import our model from the models.py here. So let's go ahead and say from.models import, and then we want capital project, okay? So that's saying, go get this models that is here inside of this folder, and let's get the project class that's inside of there. And now that we have that, we can say lowercase admin, which is what was imported right up there. We're going to say admin.site in still lowercase register, and then in the parentheses here, we're going to do capital project, okay? So this is the line of code that we have to add to say, hey, I want to see this model inside of the admin. But once we do that and hit save, let's go back to this web page and reload. Look at that. Project shows up. Isn't that cool? Okay, so if we go here and we click on projects, we can hit add project. And look, there's the different properties that we added before. Title, description, image, URL. Isn't that sweet? And notice the things in bold are the things that are required. And the URL, which we said blank is equal to true, that is optional. So let's go ahead and try on our first one. I'm going to say my first project, Okay, and I'm gonna say this is the description, and then I'm gonna choose a file. I'm gonna go ahead and just grab my Zappy Code logo. Feel free to use any image that you would like. You can also, if you want to, at the end of this section, go to the GitHub repo that has the source code for this project, and you can use any of the images that I use. And with that, we'll go ahead and hit save here. Now, you'll notice when we hit save, look at this. Something new was added, and we go to this product object, and it's saying, hey, this is my first project description. This has now been saved. This is inside of the database. So I could completely close out of our project, reopen it, and this thing would still be here, this object that we made. So if we go back to the home of the admin, and I go to projects, look, it says there's one project object, and if we click on it, it's got that information. Now, with this, you're gonna say, oh, look, here's my picture. I'd like to see this. And if you go ahead and click on this, well, it's gonna have a little bit of an issue here. And it says, hey, this thing doesn't exist at all. It tried to look for it under the following place. Now, if we go back to our code here, you'll notice there's been a new folder added inside of Portfolio, and that's that images, and inside of images, there's the Zappy thing. Now, this is kind of just a coincidence because we named the folder Portfolio, and that's why it saved it there. This is really not the place that we should be saving our images. So in fact, I'm just gonna right click this folder and say delete. I don't want this to be here. What we need to do is move over to our settings. So I'm gonna go into our personal portfolio settings. And let's go ahead and scroll down to the bottom. And we need to add a new line here that says media underscore root, all caps, okay? So we want to specify that this media root should be equal to something, okay? Let me get a space between there. And this is basically saying, where should we save all the media files? Like there might be lots of different apps that are saving images different places. Where should we save them? Well, what we can do is say, I want to save it in a folder like media. Now, in order to do this, the really clean way is you're going to go ahead and scroll up until you see code like this that has the names of different things. In fact, I think it's a little bit cleaner. Here it is, inside of databases. So remember when we talked about this a little bit, when you save a database, it's currently saving it to your base directory, which is wherever your project is, and then with the name db.sqlite3. So let's go ahead and copy this thing, same line here, because this is operating system agnostic, meaning that, you know, if you made this on your Mac, you could upload your code to a Linux server and it would work fine. If you made it on a Windows machine and then uploaded it to Mac, it would totally be fine. So we're going to copy this line of code, come down and say the media root is equal to, and instead of SQLite3, we're just simply going to say media here. So this says take whatever the base directory is and add media to it. So now that we've done this, if we go ahead and save and go back to our site, we're going to go to the projects here. Let's look at our existing project. I'm going to re-upload this image. So I'm going to go ahead and select this, hit open, and then hit save. So this is us like updating that object. Now, if we go back to our project, look, a new top folder has been added called media. Inside of media is portfolio, inside of that is images, and inside of that is our zappy.jpg. Isn't that cool? Okay, so this is how they're uploaded, and you're saying, great, I want to look at it on my website. So I'm going to go to this object, click on this, but it's still not showing. It's saying I can't find it. Now, in order for this to happen, we have to do a little bit of work in our urls.py. So we're going to move into our code. Let's go to our urls.py. And basically, we need to add something to our URL pattern. So I'm going to select the name URL patterns. This is just a list. And we're going to add one additional thing to this list here. Now, what it is that we're going to add is this thing called static, which we have to import. So this is functionality from the Django project that we're importing in here. So we're going to say from lowercase django.conf.urls.static import lowercase static. All right. So now that that's been imported, we can say URL patterns plus equals, meaning we're adding one additional thing into here, and we're going to do static, okay, with the parentheses here. And we have to specify first what the media URL is going to be and the media root is. Now, you know what the media root is, but you don't know what the media URL is. Basically, the media URLs is saying, you know, where in your URLs should you get to these images? Should it be like, you know, your website / media / and then, you know, all those things? Or should it be like your website / cool pictures dot, you know, whatever. So we're going to go to our settings, and down here at the bottom, just like there's a static URL, we're going to add a capital media underscore URL. And you can go ahead and set this to whatever you'd like. I'm going to copy a similar format here, but just change it to say media. Now, there's nothing special about the term media here. It's not like this has to match this folder. I just think it's a good, simple name to keep this all together. So I'm going to save the settings file, come back to urls.py, and I'm going to say here that I want to access information from the settings. So I'm going to do one more import. I'm going to say from lowercase django.conf import lowercase settings. So this gets our information from our settings file, and I'm going to say lowercase settings dot, and then I'm going to get that media underscore URL. And then I'm also going to say settings dot media, all caps here, media root. Now with the media root, we have to specify with this one, we're going to say document underscore root is equal to this. Okay, so this specifies that, this is that particular document root, but go ahead and save this. And I know this was a lot of typing. If you ever get lost and you're like, how does he even know this? If you just Google Django media images, you're going to find a tutorial that shows you exactly this. So don't be freaked out. You're like, well, how does he know these different things? I'm reading from my notes. Don't ever be afraid that it's like, I'm not going to remember all this stuff. Don't worry. You can always Google it and find it. Okay. So with that in place, let's go back to our projects. Look at this particular project and click on the image now. And look at that. So you can see this image is at the name of our website /media/portfolio/images/zappy.jpg. So for example, if I go back to my project and I say, you know what, media is just a really dumb name. I want it to be something like cool pics. I can save this, come back, and if I reload this page, it no longer works because I now have to go to cool pics. But if I enter that in, all of a sudden, now it's working. Now, I don't think cool pics is really the best name. I really think it's media, but I just want you to see that, you can totally pick whatever it is that you want that name to be. Okay. So, hopefully you're starting to grasp, let's put the admin in here, what a database is and why it is so cool. We just learned here how we can, bring in some media images. That was a little bit of a separate topic, but we have started something great. The next step for us is to take the things that are here inside of our database and actually display them on the homepage. And that's what we're going to be doing in the next lecture.